up, guys? This is Tyler Belknap with Dirt Bike Test. I'm 21 years old. I weigh about 165 to 170 pounds. I'm a professional off-road racer. I'm around 6 foot, and I usually race and ride a YZ250 FX. For first place, I had to pick the Cowie. As soon as you sit on the bike, you feel really comfortable and at home. Not much you need to really do to it just to sit on the bike. I think you can go and race it comfortability-wise, not needing to change the bars or anything like that. That was definitely a big winning aspect for me on the bike. There was the rider triangle. I also like that you have the option to drop the pegs if you want to for somebody who's taller like me. The motor on the bike feels really powerful, but nothing that's gonna rip your arms off or makes you feel almost scared. As a 250 rider, I'm not too used to the 450s as much, and I don't have as much time on them. But this bike felt like it was able to pull power, but nothing that was too crazy. But it also liked lugging and revving, so it did really good on the moto side of things and also really good on the tighter things. So I think some of these bikes kind of lagged on having a motor that was stuck in one spot, to where this bike could do really good everywhere. The suspension was a little softer for the West Coast conditions that we have out here. I think it could go a little bit stiffer than it was, but it was still, for the lineup, one of the better bikes of suspension. The only really negative I had for this bike was that the levers were just a little thin and a little uncomfortable to put your fingers on. But I think if you either moved them in a little bit more to get that wider spot, or if you just change the levers, I think you could find a more comfortable solution to that. But with that being the only negative, I think this bike's really strong, and Cowie has figured out this bike really well. For second place, I put the Honda. Being on the taller side, like I said earlier in the video, I felt that this cockpit suited me really well. It was easy to stand up, to sit down. The triangle just felt comfortable. The bars weren't ideal, but they were still pretty good for me. And the motor on this bike was really comfortable. It was another bike that wasn't overbearing with power, but still had enough pull to get you out of things or to feel like you're riding a 450. But I felt I felt the motor struggled a little bit more in the top end. When it revved, it seemed to just tighten up everything. The bike didn't seem to enjoy that. So it seemed if you just clicked it up a gear and rode it in a little bit higher of a gear, the bike could open up, and the bike felt open and smooth. I think a big benefit for the Honda too is that it comes with 3 maps right there on the handlebar that you can switch between. And I think that's amazing for different types of riding. Each map is perfect for different scenarios and for different types of riders. And I think it's a really cool aspect that they have on it that I think only Yamaha's the only other one that you can change maps on. This bike turns really well, but the only negative to this bike, I would say, also to contradict the turning well, is that it has a really wide tank that it almost feels like it hurts you when you try to turn, like it wants to turn really good, but you just have to put your legs so far up and out that it's almost hard to get your leg up. But if you can keep your feet on the pegs cornering or standing up cornering, that bike will corner all day long. It feels really good in the tight stuff or just in the moto style ruts. I put the Yamaha third because I felt as a taller rider, it just wasn't that comfortable from the sit to stand ratio and the rider triangle. I think it was struggling. It was just too close between the seat and the pegs. And I feel like on my race bike, I have a tall seat, and it definitely opens it up and will help it. If they had just a little bit more height, it makes the bike a lot better, but no tall seat makes it, and stock just makes it hurt a lot. The motor on it, as Yamaha's always been known, it's a strong motor. It's a fast motor. It's another bike that I don't feel too comfortable revving super high. It has plenty of power on the bottom to mid and has no reason for you to even want to go rev it. And we put in some different mappings on it like you can thanks to the GYTR power tuning app, which I think is amazing. You can play around with different maps. We played around with some, and we made some really good maps for somebody like me who doesn't really want or need all that power. And we moved the power around to where it felt comfortable and the bike was really strong. I also, coming from Yamaha, I really like cable clutches, so the cable clutch just felt at home and natural to me. For some reason, those are some things that I just feel comfortable on. The hydraulic clutch, I'm still not a big fan of, and I'm working on, but the Yamaha is just really comfortable in that aspect. The Yamaha had probably the best suspension, I'd say, out of the whole lineup. It was still, once again, on the soft side for these West Coast conditions, but I think if you were to go buy it stock, this bike has some really good suspension out of this whole lineup. But once again, I would go to a stiffer setting for somebody at my level. In fourth place, I put the gas. It was actually a really comfortable cockpit for me to sit in as a taller rider. I felt pretty comfortable on it when I was sitting there at first, and I had some high expectations for it, and I was really excited to ride it because I don't ride too many Austrian bikes. But once I started riding it, I kind of fell out of love from it. I wasn't a big fan of the suspension. The suspension kind of felt like it was just not that predictable. The air forks just felt weird. Like everything just kind of felt a little weird riding, and it was just different. And some people might like that, but I found it just kind of odd coming from KYB and stuff. The motor, it wasn't a 450 motor to me, and what's weird is I'm a 250 guy, but I didn't like the motor because when I get on a 450, I want to feel a 450 pretty good. Like I want to know I'm on one, and that bike did not feel like a 450. It felt closer to a 350 in my opinion, and that motor being that slow made the bike honestly feel heavy, and it just made the bike not feel good to me. Like I just felt like I wanted to get more out of the bike, and it wasn't wanting me to. But I really liked the steel frame. The steel frame made the bike feel a little bit more relaxed. I did enjoy that. The handlebars and everything on it though felt really comfortable. And like I said, sitting on the bike, it's really great. I think for a little bit slow of a rider or somebody getting introduced to a 450, you might like it a little bit more, but I found it as not that great of a motor. Honestly though, all these bikes are really good. You can go out and race any of them, and you can set them all up for yourself. And once you set them all up for yourself, it's just which one do you like a little bit more. But coming out of the cage, those were my picks, and that's a wrap on this shootout.
If you liked what you saw in this video, come check us out over at dirtbiketest.com on the webs. We have bike tests, product tests, a lot of fresh dirt, and you can even support us by clicking through our links. Hopefully we'll see you out in the trail.